And now back to our main topic of the day. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, Europe is asserting its independence amid rising tensions with the United States. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and French President Emmanuel Macron pushed back against President Trump's Greenland tariff threats. This as Trump proposes a board of peace aimed at ending conflicts globally, but instead dividing Central and Eastern Europe. To lay things out for us, we're joined by Philippe Dickinson, a Deputy Director at the Atlantic Council. Mr. Dickinson, welcome to TP World. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
So, talk to us about President Trump's Board of Peace. Where does it get its authority from, and what is its agenda?
Well, the Board of Peace was first proposed by the United States to the UN Security Council in November, and the UN Security Council approved the Board of Peace in a 13-0 vote. Russia and China abstained on that vote. But the way the Board of Peace was framed at that time was very much about the next stage in the peace negotiations around Gaza. It was around creating a medium-term solution to governance issues in Gaza, and it was very much focused around that problem. But what we've seen over the last few days from the reports is that the White House's vision for the Board of Peace is much more expansive, and that it will be granting a great deal of authority to the chairman of the Board of Peace, which is the president, Donald Trump. Your colleagues, your program explained some of the practical details and proposals that the United States has very well. So I won't repeat all of those here, but needless to say that the vision that is emerging for what this Board of Peace would represent is a lot more expansive than what the UN Security Council agreed to in November, and in some ways amounts to an attempt to supplant the UN as the premier forum for negotiating and hashing out peace deals and negotiations globally.
Understood. Now, supplanting the UN is something I want to come back to in just a second, but where does it get the authority from to make these decisions and therefore to enforce whatever decisions the Board of Peace comes up with?
Well, that's, I think, unclear and as yet to be determined, because the authority for the establishment of this comes from that UN Security Council resolution. But beyond that, the question of authority is very unclear and uncertain. There would presumably need to be some sort of treaty that is signed and agreed by the countries that decide to participate. But what legal authority goes beyond that is unclear. And as we mentioned, there would need to be engagement and support of other international mechanisms to grant it that universal and widely accepted credibility and acceptance. And it's unclear as to how this current version of what is envisaged would achieve that.
Another area where there is a lack of clarity, Mr. Dickinson, is amongst the Central Eastern European nations. Hungary has leapt at the opportunity to be a member of the Board of Peace, whereas Poland is hesitating. It's in conducting a balancing act at the moment. How do you see that dynamic?
Yeah, I don't think it's hugely surprising that Hungary would leap at the chance to do this, to join this, because the Hungarian government and Viktor Orban personally sees a lot of close kinship with Donald Trump, and so wants to obviously curry favor and remain in the administration's good books. It's very understandable, though, that others, including Poland and others around Europe, should be in a wait-and-see mode and see to what extent this initiative and this proposal gains legs. I think that behind closed doors, there will be a lot of coordination between different governments and senior officials across European capitals as to exactly how to respond to and deal with this proposed vision of the Board of Peace, because it goes so much further than what was initially presented to the United Nations in November. So watch and see, I think, will be the approach for the Europeans. And unless what the Board of Peace will focus on and work on, unless that is tightened significantly, I think they will be hoping to just wait it out and hope that the idea just kind of loses momentum.
Right, well, we should see if that happens. Now, moving on, another tool that, and this is connected with the Board of Peace, but it's also being used by President Trump to strong-arm countries into supporting his stance on Greenland. Ursula von der Leyen, in a speech at Davos, has said, look, a promise is a promise, and it should mean something. She says tariffs had been agreed upon. Prime Minister Tusk of Poland is saying appeasement never works. What should the EU be doing in this position?
I think it's important for the EU and all countries that are affected by this situation and the tariff threat, which does include some non-EU countries, should remain united, consistent, clear in their messaging to the Trump administration, whilst looking to find the off-ramp. The tariff threat is one that we've seen the president resort to a number of times. It is something that he feels very comfortable wielding. It is something that I think he thinks delivers results. Whilst in the background you have cabinet members in his administration, the likes of Scott Bessent or Steve Witkoff, etc., sort of trying to massage the president's tone a little bit and reassure that there is an off-ramp available there. So I think the focus for Europe should be on being clear on how it would respond should this escalate continue, what the steps in that escalation pathway look like, but most importantly, staying calm, staying united, and staying focused on how to get off that escalatory pathway.
Understood. Now, in terms of, if we zoom out and look at President Trump's general foreign policy, he seems to be withdrawing from a number of international bodies, including, it would seem at this stage, his interest in NATO declining. Do you see a NATO without America?
I personally don't think it is helpful to be giving voice and oxygen to the proposal or suggestion that the United States could be abandoning NATO. We went through this a lot in the first Trump administration, and this topic, this issue kind of comes up again in cyclical fashion. The way NATO allies handled 2025 with the Trump administration, the way the Secretary General handled the Trump administration last year was very successful. I know that it was distasteful to a lot of Europeans, but ultimately it was successful. And I think it's most important to get the conversation focused back on how to work together with the United States to strengthen NATO, rather than continuing to add to the sense that NATO is in some sort of kind of existential crisis. This is exactly what Russia wants, and we should always be thinking, I think, do what your enemy wants you to do the least. And for NATO, that is remaining calm and united and focused. And staying resolute in the face of, the way the president operates is to win the daily news cycle, and to win it every day, just to focus on how you can move beyond this current news cycle, reassure the administration that you are taking their concerns seriously, but standing firm behind your red lines, and proposing how you can strengthen NATO, because the United States is absolutely essential to the success of NATO.
Good advice indeed. Mr. Philippe Dickinson, thank you very much indeed for laying all that out for our audience. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And that brings us to the end of this episode of World News Tonight. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.